Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. For the past week, Korea has been at the center of global discussions on cultural heritage as it hosts the 48th session of the UNESCO World Heritage Committee. The gathering has brought together experts and policymakers from around the world to discuss how to better protect our shared heritage in the face of growing challenges, from climate change to rapid development. Now, as the meeting draws into a close, it also offers an opportunity to reflect on Korea's own World Heritage sites. Beyond their historical significance, what do they reveal about the country's identity, values, and place in the world? To help us answer those questions, we're joined by a scholar who has spent decades studying Korea and how it shares its history with international audiences. Mark Peterson, professor of Korean Studies at Brigham Young University. A very big welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, Professor, let's begin with the latest UNESCO World Heritage Committee that's been hosted by Korea for the first time. So, as someone who has studied Korea for decades, how significant is this moment?
Well, I've been working on Korea for 60 years since I first went to Korea. And Korea in those days was an obscure, poor country that had no international recognition at all. And it's grown and grown, and it's been kind of logarithmic. It's climbed very rapidly in more recent years because Korea's gone from the political sphere into the cultural sphere in great power. And the cultural sphere includes music and movies and theater. And if you look around arts and symphony and all kinds of things, Korea has really achieved a lot of success in recent years. So it's wonderful, and it's altogether fitting and proper that the UNESCO meetings would be held in Seoul.
Building on that, Korea is now home to 17 UNESCO World Heritage sites. So if we look across them, what do you think makes Korean heritage stand out on the global stage?
Well, there are so many wonderful things about Korean culture. The first heritage sites were couched in Buddhist and Confucian ideology. The first two of the three were Buddhist temples, and the third one was the Chongmyo, which is Confucian ceremonies to the king. And it's expanded then into other cultural areas. One area that I really enjoy personally is the Yangdong village. I have spent 2 summers in Yangdong with students. I took students to live in Yangdong, 15 students one year, 16 students the next year. And we saw they were preparing the paperwork to get ready to apply for UNESCO recognition. So I've seen some of this close up, and it's really been a marvelous thing to see Korea get this kind of recognition.
Wow, so watching them get enlisted in the first hand, it must be a special experience for you. Now, if we take this
It was really exciting.
Right, of course. If we take that a step further, Professor, excuse me. So beyond their historical importance, what do these sites actually tell the world about Korea and its people?
Well, I've been on the scene in Korea, studying Korea for 60 years, and Korea years ago had no recognition. And now so many people around the world see Korea as a cultural, what can you say, multiplex. It's not a simple Korean cultural item. I think years ago, Korea liked to talk about Pulguksa and some of these attractive sites. And the tourist brochures were Pulguksa and Haeinsa and other Buddhist temples and such. But it's so much more complicated now. And for a time, tourism was centered on the courtroom drama, not the courtroom, the palace drama about the cooking. What was that one? Yes, Daejanggung. And all the tourism that came, especially from China, to see the palace where this cooking took place. So the cultural items are very diverse now, centered on music and theater and so many things besides the old temples and the Confucian shrines and that sort of thing. So it's become very multifaceted.
Right, indeed. It really gives us a much deeper picture of Korea and the values that shaped it as well. Then, Professor, do you think some aspects of Korea's heritage are still kind of underappreciated internationally?
Well, I suppose so. You know, interesting question because, I'm so grateful for the recognition Korea has received. There was a time in America where Korea was the TV show MASH. MASH was the old TV show about the Korean War and the soldiers in the medical army surgical hospital, and it was a comedy show, but it depicted Korea as such a poor, rundown place. And I remember in those days, what are we talking about, 70s, 80s? My Korean friends who knew about the American TV just scolded me. They said, "Can't you show America that Korea is more than just MASH?" And so now it is more than MASH. How is it underdeveloped? Well, I'm not sure. On my YouTube channel, I talk a lot about how we need to appreciate Korean culture more. And I'm trying to develop new avenues all the time. But Korea is so well appreciated now, but we still need to work on showing some of the wider aspects of Korean culture, I think.
Right. Let's hope it could shed light on some parts of Korea's heritage that still need to receive more attention than they actually deserve. Now, heritage, of course, isn't limited to historic sites. Korea's UNESCO-listed tidal flats have now expanded to include several other sites as well. How significant is that latest recognition, Professor?
Oh, that's really interesting because the tidal flats, the Moses, they call it, the flats where at certain times of the tide you can walk way out into the sea. That's very, very interesting and unique around the world. And so yes, let's see what UNESCO thinks about that. And if UNESCO says yes, that's interesting. The beautiful thing about UNESCO and for Korea to look to UNESCO is it puts it in an international perspective. So we can compare Korea in a realistic way to other cultural items in other parts of the world. So for the tidal flats even to be considered is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Right. Now, if we go back for starters, why is it so important to preserve both cultural and natural heritage in today's world, Professor?
Well, especially in Korea, development, development, development. Build a factory, build a housing complex, tear it down, and the old song in America was pave paradise and put up a parking lot. That's such a great expression to ruin paradise, to ruin the natural world, and put up a parking lot and a building and modern things like that. One thing that's really marvelous about Korean cultural preservation is Korea has a very strict salvage archaeology rule. Salvage archaeology means that anytime a road or a railroad or a building or a factory goes into an area, they have to do salvage archaeology. That means not a deep, serious archaeological dig, but to go through quickly and just make sure there's not something significant archaeologically under the earth at that point. And I understand the builders just hate that because that gets in the way of their building proposal and their building plans. But they have to go through very quickly to make sure there's not some archaeological site there. And through that process, Korea's discovered quite a number of interesting archaeological sites. So cultural preservation goes in many, many levels, archaeological, prehistory sorts of things, as well as modern cultural, as well as natural things, the forests and the woods and the tidal flats as well.
Right. So preserving itself is really essential because they tell different but connected stories about our history as well. Now, if we look into the future, Professor Peterson, as more people around the world take more interest in Korea, how can the country protect its heritage while also making it also accessible to more people?
Yeah, that's a good question because the UNESCO recognition makes a big difference. That says this is important. We can't change this. We can't destroy this. We must preserve this. It's not just Korean. It's the world. It's a world treasure. So it helps Korea to be more conscious of its place in the world and preserving cultural sites within Korea. It's a marvelous thing. It's a marvelous thing. If it weren't for that, I'm afraid that for the sake of development, and Korea has developed so much, I think for the sake of development, some old things might have been destroyed. This is true around the world. That's why UNESCO is doing this. That's why they're saying to all the countries of the world, hey, what do you have that's really, really culturally important that we need to protect just in case someone else wants to tear it down?
Right. So this challenge, it's making heritage accessible without putting it at risk. Now, along those lines, then, do you think the global popularity of Korean culture, like K-pop to K-dramas, has also changed the way people kind of engage with Korea's history and heritage as well?
Yes, it makes a difference. It deepens the appreciation for Korea because if you understand K-pop and some of the recent dramas, you look at Korea as a modern phenomenon. But then when you come to Korea or you learn more about Korea, you see this deeper layer of culture, and you learn more about the Buddhist tradition and the Confucian tradition and the deeper cultural aspects of Korea. So the modern cultural phenomenon help us to appreciate the old phenomenon as well, because when you look at the modern, you cannot help but come in and see more of the deeper tradition as well.
Right, definitely. It's really interesting because Hallyu may be kind of opening the door to a much broader interest in Korea to a broader range of people as well. Now, if we kind of look ahead, what do you see as the biggest challenge in ensuring Korea's World Heritage continues to inspire future generations moving forward?
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Don't ask me that question because my biggest concern about Korea is the human heritage. My biggest concern about Korea is the low birth rate. Korea is committing national suicide by having such a low birth rate. If you have 100 mothers now, but they only have a birth rate of zero point 0.6, that means you'll only have 30 mothers in the next generation. And the next generation, you'll only have 6 mothers. And they call it the population precipice, or falling over the edge. And that's my biggest concern about Korea today is not so much the cultural heritage as much as the human heritage. If we have all this cultural heritage around us and the natural environment around us, but we don't have enough people to maintain the population, to pay for the older people that get older, to pay for the military, it's a serious business. So that's my biggest concern for the future. It's beyond the cultural and more the personal and social aspect of Korea.
Right, a very important point that you've mentioned, maintaining and also fostering future generations for human heritage will be very important and a very important task for the country moving forward. Now, finally, before we let you go, so you spent 60 years of your career studying Korea. What do you believe is the greatest value of preserving its world heritage for the future?
Well, Korean culture is so unique in so many interesting ways. A lot of it, these days they talk about DNA, Korean DNA. And I don't believe in DNA as a uniquely physical thing. That's almost a racist point of view. But Korea has cultural DNA. For generation after generation after generation, Korea has had unique culture, going back to installing the examination system, where everybody wanted to study to pass the exams, the exams, the exams, the exams. And, we talk about that today, but it goes back 1,000 years, literally 1,000 years. And it's been so important for Korea because with the focus on the exams, it means you have a central state. You don't have a feudal state the way you do in Japan, where everybody's fighting with each other. You have a centralized state that's a much, much more peaceful state. So Korea has inherited this peaceful tradition that runs 1,000 years, a peaceful tradition that's centered on learning, on education. And I think that's the most interesting and most remarkable thing about Korean culture. Cultural DNA. It really makes Korea a unique place.
Well, it's a fitting reminder that preserving heritage is ultimately about passing Korea's story on to the next future generation. But I'm afraid we'll have to leave our discussion right here. Professor Peterson, thank you so much for joining me this evening and sharing your insights.
My pleasure. Let me come again.
Thank you. And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.